Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle, along with my co-host, the lovely Rachel Santizo.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm just fine. We will introduce our guest, Tony, in just a second. This is one of the most listened to and watched podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery. And if you're listening on iTunes,
please give us a comment. Leave a
It's
response.
a review.
A review. I was like, what is the word? Please leave a review for us because that's how we'll grow and learn. And we want to hear your voice and what you have to say.
Right.
Same thing.
You never know because we're sitting in this little room and we just do our thing. And we know that thousands of people are watching or listening. But if we don't hear from you, it's sort of like, it just would be nice to hear from someone.
Yeah, and we want to hear the stories that need to be told. So absolutely.
Yeah. And our guest is you invited this morning.
I
or
did.
Today, I should say. People watch this 24/7, so we're recording it this morning.
Yeah,
so
gratefully, I mean, Tony deserves to be on this show. So this is Tony Ollerton, and there's so many good things that I could say. I'm going to let her explain. Once she starts talking, you'll feel it for yourself. But she is over the creative arts pillar at Fit to Recover, a nonprofit recovery center, and it's one of our pillars, and she provides an outlet. So we are very talented in our population, and it's like finding...
When you say we, you're talking about people in recovery?
Well, yes, people in recovery.
And we should say Rachel and I are both in recovery, but Tony is not.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
You're one of the first guests we've had for a while who's not in recovery. But
it makes it extra special.
Well, I know, but you have a lot of connection to people in recovery, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us how? Because I asked you before we started recording this, you mentioned a son? Or a husband?
Meaning like my journey with people in recovery. So as a youth, I struggled with a lot of mental health issues in my childhood and in my adolescence, and I ended up in a inpatient rehab for adolescents for 73 days until they kicked me out for insurance reasons. But
so you were a rebel back then.
I was depressed. I was very depressed.
Okay.
But there were some things going on in my life that suicide and drug use and things like that were some of the only ways that at the time, that you think that's how you're going to deal with it. So,
and how old were you?
I was 16. 16. So
you went into a residential facility. What was that like at 16?
It was better than home, actually. So I really, people asked me that question a lot when I was there. It must be hard to be here. And I'm like, no, this is not so bad. This is not so bad. So I learned a lot from the other patients there, some things that maybe I didn't need to know, but I got to use when I left. But actually, that was during that time too. I remember one of the therapists saying, "You should be a therapist when you grow up," and that was one of those things that kind of stuck with me. After I left the residential, I was homeless for a while, and then for my senior year in high school.
You were a homeless senior in high school?
Yeah.
Here in Salt Lake?
No, in California. Oh, okay. So it's different.
At least it was warmer.
It was very warm.
Yeah.
It was very warm. So being able to squat in construction houses or houses under construction, lived on a boat, in a car, garages, literally lived in a stairwell, like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
The broom closet.
Yeah.
Things like that. And those were just, it was okay. It was okay to just be in those spaces.
I just fall more in love with her the more she speaks.
You hadn't heard any of this?
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah. And then during that time, I met my future ex-husband, and this is what I was talking. Yeah, gorgeous individual, very talented, struggling with alcoholism, and we just went down that journey together for 10 years. And just witnessing him also trying to quit. Yeah. It was was an interesting journey in itself. And that led, often him trying to quit would be me using more as a way for him to, it was, just a process. So during that time too, I started getting involved though in jobs that were around mental health. Okay. So like in high school, I started, at the time I lived in the South Bay area, and you probably don't know this time era of the McMartin preschool.
Yes, I remember it well.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And so I actually worked for a counseling center at the time that had created a space for the kids to come, and because parents still needed places for the kids to go, they were still trying to work and still trying to make ends meet. So those kids who were being investigated that came to this therapeutic daycare. So they just needed people at the time. I was a senior in high school that could run because these kids were just running. They were running. They were trying to get out. And so just somebody that could catch kids, hang with kids. I was like a behavioral health aide. And then after that, I went into working on the National Suicide Hotline. And
what did that do for you? Because you completely changed things. And so coming from the mental health, and now you're working with youth and the suicide. I
remember in one of my first psych classes, professor saying, he was just so jaded. He's like, half of you are here because you're just trying to find yourselves. And I thought, not me. I really want to be a therapist. But it's like, I was trying to find myself, totally trying to find myself, totally trying to find myself. So working at those places allowed me also to have affordable mental health care, because I got a huge, I was seeing this, incredible doctor for $5,
nice.
I worked there.
That's a deal.
That is.
Yeah. So that was helpful. What it did for me, I think it just, it helped to make sense of some of the things that had happened in my life. And you hear this all the time. Like, what do I do with this? What am I supposed to do with this? Yeah. Other than try to understand myself and then come in a place where I'm not, it's not about me, but I just I hear your story and, I can vibe something with it. You know what I mean? And again, not to try to pull anybody down the path that I went, but just I can hear that, and maybe I understand it just a little bit better, a little bit differently. So, but that doesn't I say that, and then I think about how every single day I hear something you think you've heard it all, and then you're like, damn, I just not heard that. Wow. And so that's just a continual process. So, I think that for me, that just made sense to go in that direction, probably initially just to try to make sense of why do some things happen? Well, it happens so that you can be in service to others. I don't really like that at all, saying that, but that was a way.
Makes you sound like Mother Teresa.
It was just a way, I think, to just to somehow come to terms, with some different things that went down. So
and now you have your PhD.
So now I have my PhD.
So we need to call her Dr. Tony then.
Yes.
Please. No,
that's right.
No. It was an 8-year journey for that. I have a bachelor's in music therapy, a master's in music-centered psychotherapy, and then a PhD in health psychology. But the health psychology was really, I wanted to know more about the whole mind-body, in really understanding how our thoughts impact our health and our health impacts our thoughts, and that whole vicious cycle that can happen. And the focus was also on program development and research. And I did that because I thought that was really lacking in my understanding of healthcare. And I wanted to know more about the phenomena of what I was seeing in the creative arts and music therapy. And
what were you seeing?
Honestly, and this is I know coming from my I love music therapy, but just people who continue to say this is one of the most impactful experiences I've had.
Yeah,
I really am able to talk about what's going on. This has saved my life. This is the only way I can really talk as when I'm working with youth, and they're really shut down, but what they say in their music is just whoa, is that what's going on for you? Is that how you're feeling? And they're yeah, that's what's going on.
And that it's a growing trend to accept the fact that there are that there's a whole bunch of things involved in treatment.
Absolutely.
Right?
It is finally growing. It is finally growing, but
Like
it
music
still,
and
yes.
Tibetan bowls.
Art, dance, psychodrama, rec therapy, all of those things. There's still though, healthcare is still dictated by insurance companies who are saying like, well, this is what you need, even though there's no evidence behind a lot of the things that they're still paying for. There is a lot of evidence behind the creative arts therapies.
So insurance wouldn't pay for music therapy
Sometimes,
or things like that?
Most times they don't. In some states, like in this state, we've had a problem with our legislation as far as being willing to license music therapy. In a lot of other states they do, which helps us to get reimbursed with insurance. In this state, they're just like, we don't want to regulate one more thing and we're not going to support you on that. And so that makes it hard for us. So you have to find a case manager just like really willing to go to bat. So a lot of the times these services that are very impactful and meaningful and transformative have to come out of pocket. So the provider, like for myself, before I got to work with Fit to Recover, a lot of sliding scale, a lot of pro bono work. And so that was part of my journey, is trying to find like, well, where are the nonprofits who might support something like this, who might, support bringing in community-based music therapy, community-based art therapy, things like that. And that being a little different in that it's not as clinically driven, but that magic still happens. Like the community is still doing the therapeutic work themselves. There's a landing place, for them to continue that work. And it's affordable. It's accessible and it's affordable. And so as I was trying to create, outpatient, am I talking too much?
No.
Okay.
You were doing so good.
As I was trying to create outpatient groups from a clinical space, you'd see it inpatient, you'd see it available sometimes outpatient, but then there's no landing place for them. They're just like left alone after that, like nothing. I started talking to people in the recovery community and just where could I do this? Anybody willing to just let me do a group pro bono, come in? And I was like, you should go talk to Ian Acker. Yeah. And I had actually met Ian a little before that because I had worked with I've been with Aqua Recover for almost 7 years. And I had taken them to FTR to do some recording. And met him there. And then we hooked up again, after Yusara sent me there. And we just started this process. It took us a year before he finally was like, yeah. He called me one day after I said how I had kind of stalked him. I knew where he worked out at Vasa. And, it just, so.
I love that. That's
so I started working out at Vasa. Like, you went in the morning, things like that. And so we just kept in contact with each other. And finally he's like, yeah, well, let's do this. And so I did it pro bono for 6 months and try to show some efficacy.
Explain to me how, because I'm in recovery, explain to me how, say, music therapy or something like that. I'm a recovering alcoholic, okay? How that would have helped me when I went through a program.
Yeah, I don't know that it would have. I think the thing that's unique about, offering the creative arts is that I see everybody's recovery as unique, right? What works for some people are not going to necessarily work for others. So what we do, let's say when we're working in an inpatient setting is, you're throwing a lot of things at them, right. Kind of seeing what works, what's not going to, not as effective for them. But I think with music, everybody has some kind of relationship with music. Everybody does, whether it's an acquaintance type relationship or it's like a deep, like it saved my life relationship. Like I can't wake up in the morning without it. I can't do X with it. Tells my story. I remember this song when I was young. Like there's some relationships there with it, right? And so we have this opportunity to connect with each other, to witness each other, for people to speak their story, speak their truth through music. So sometimes it helps even with people who say that I don't really like music. I don't really have a relationship with music. But then they're like, I have this memory with it, and it's a positive memory or it's a tough memory. And it opens up the door often for people to be able to say things that were difficult, to literally sit in 3.5 minutes with an emotion that sometimes is intolerable for them. But in that moment, like we're literally building some, new bridges in our brain. Like the fact that, that
safe space to be vulnerable.
Exactly. And so like people like, I can't handle that emotion.
Yeah.
But in the song, like, okay, you sat with that for 3.5 minutes. So here's a new message to the brain. Like you can, you don't want to. And there's a lot of things to work through on that, but you know what? We're not going to die. We are literally going to die.
Yeah.
Which we feel like we're going to.
That's usually what the amygdala is telling you, like, get the hell out of here. You know, so sometimes with music, it's this interesting way that it literally cools the amygdala, tells the prefrontal cortex, like, chill, you're okay. And then it starts like this new relationship for them with their own emotional journey and their own memories and how they're managing trauma, all kinds of interesting things like that. And sometimes when you say like, what can it do to help? Connection sometimes is hard with people. So sometimes even if I'm just like witnessing somebody's experience, I don't have to have a relationship with that music. But I'm just like hearing your story and like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I remember I went to Tony once and I said, "Oh, I'm not creative because I don't draw. I mean, I can't even draw a stick figure."
Oh, yeah, both sitting here with a podcast. You're very creative.
Yeah, she like pulls this stuff out of you. Like, no, wait, you are creative. You're just not giving yourself that permission to see it.
You said too earlier. You said how the recovery community is very talented. Think about all the things that took place for you to stay alive. Think of all the things that it took place for even to keep the secret or to keep the habit going. All of those, like those are insanely creative ways, like so creative. Yeah. And so for us to acknowledge how creative individuals who are dealing with mental health and recovery issues are, and then find a place for them to use that in a way that is more healthier for them
and
empowering. There you go.
And I think in residential care we don't do enough of that because occasionally when we'll have some kind of say art contest or submission, the amazing artwork that we get from some of our clients, and it's like, my gosh, I didn't know you were talented like that.
And so yes, my PhD, my dissertation was on the impact of participation in a music group such as the one that we have at Fit to Recover on social identity, transformation, and sustained recovery. And so, the research has really shown like how important it is as you move through recovery to see yourself differently. So these opportunities to see yourself as an artist, as a musician, as a cook, as an athlete, as a volunteer, somebody who supports the community, like we need to have different social identities other than just
a recovering drug addict.
Exactly. Like those are really important. And the more that we're able to support people in that kind of social prescription that supports social identity transformation, it supports sustained recovery. So as you see these Cadillac programs in inpatient that have all of these incredible groups and art therapy and music therapy and rec therapy and everything, and then in the discharge planning, none of that's happening, even though the clients are saying in any kind of evaluation, like loved it, super important, valued it, and you can look at therapist notes too on like the outcomes of this. There is nothing in the discharge. So what I hope to see, and again, like I think this is one of the fascinating and amazing things that I see at Fit to Recover, is this landing space that they're trying to create in the community. Where so we see these things are impactful. How do we create the bridge of continuum of care so that when you land in the community, those things are still there for you, they're affordable, and you can keep going on that journey. So
I hadn't thought about that. I mean, like if you think about transitional housing and sober living, there's none of that. I mean, which is where Fit to Recover would come in.
And it's not enough. You hear this all the time with people in recovery. I need more. Yeah. You have to have those. You have to have those initial safety needs met, right? Housing, food. Those things have to be met. But you have to have the social interactions. You need your community. You need your tribe. I remember a client who was coming into transition or was transitioning back into the community, and there was nobody that was willing to work with him in music therapy, like continue. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And he asked me, so what pill is my doctor going to give me for my loneliness? I'm like, right. Nothing, but they're going to try.
Right.
They're going to try. They're going to try to manage that with some kind of pill. But if we can manage that with some kind of connection and find your people, find your people. He wanted people to jam with, he wanted people to just.
And I think sometimes too, it's that long term, right? Too. So when life gets lifey, a safe space to go
That's
to.
right. We got to make that T-shirt.
Yes.
Life gets lifey.
Yeah.
That needs to be a T-shirt, Rachel.
And
For people who don't know, we're talking about a program that Tony does, Dr. Tony. That's do you like that?
That's the first time I kind of, yes, thank you.
That she does it Fit to Recover.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people in Utah know what Fit to Recover is, but a lot of people around the country and the world would not. So just brief, what does Fit to Recover do?
Go ahead. You do it.
Yeah.
This is my elevator speech on
They
Fit to
both
Recover.
work there,
Yeah, we do.
so they should know what Fit to Recover
I
does.
talk about Fit to Recover as a nonprofit that supports the recovery community through fitness and nutrition and service and creative arts. We have the opportunity often to first meet people from, whether in detox all the way back into the community. And we're one of those rare connections in there. And so our mission is really to provide this safe space for people to come and connect, find their tribe, continue to find a safe place in recovery, to find fitness, that's a very important part of health, and learn healthy relationships with food and their creativity. And I mean, the research, it's interesting when you talk about with service, which I found was really interesting in my research project, but just in the research that I was reading when you were talking to people who were in long-term sustained recovery, one of the social roles that they felt was the most important was being in service to others. Mm-hmm. That was one of the top things, was being in service to others. So it was no surprise to just see that come out even in music therapy, the way that they saw themselves in service to others in the music group. And so service is a huge part of what we do. They're just providing that space. We're like, hey, come in. All of it's about being safe and connected too.
Yeah. And I think I want to point out, because we started detox, right? But actually we can start into the correction facilities. Like Tony's going to start going into CATS and doing creative arts.
CATS is a program in the Salt Lake County Jail run by Odyssey House. And so it's basically the same type of program that you would get in a residential setting at Odyssey House, except it's in a jail. Okay.
Yeah,
I need to explain.
Great explanation. Thank you.
And then you're also talking about this landing pad, right? A safe landing pad. What does the landing pad look like moving forward?
It's so cool.
We're moving.
It's literally a community center. The thing that too, and I don't mean to just be like the woo FTR train, but I feel like it's one of the things that it keeps, is very attractive about working with the nonprofit. I mean, I moved out of the corporate healthcare, which, pays all right, good benefits and stuff. And then into a nonprofit, that's a whole nother, a whole other world. But it's the work. It's the work. And they're continually reevaluating what does the community need. And it's not about FTR needs. It's about, we are constantly every day, what do we got to do? Yeah. So one of the big things that's come up is we've outgrown the space that we've had, and we're moving into a new community center. Oh. That's literally 2 buildings, 11,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. So it's double the size for the fitness pillar, a space for our service. Creative Arts has never had a space in these 4 years, so we have a space.
And now you will.
Now we do. And now we have a place for people to come and hang out, and also create a sober venue for people to come and enjoy music, where artists can come in who support that mission. And then our nutrition pillar will have a bigger state-of-the-art. So
somebody listening or watching is going to say, hey, that sounds like a cool program. How do I get involved, and how much does it cost?
Right. We never turn anybody away. We suggest a $40 a month member donation.
And that would be for everything. That would be exercise, your program, come into nutrition, service.
Yep. For our nutrition pillar, there's other options too. You can buy meal preps. You can engage in a weekly meal prep lot, together, a community meal prep, which is really cool. So yeah, the space is going to be open more as well. Before, just with the gym that we had, you could only do one thing at a time, fitness, or then you clear out and then you build up for the creative arts and you tear that down. And then where they've got, the nutrition going on upstairs, and we can run simultaneously and support the neighborhood at the same time, the ballpark neighborhood.
And to think that it all started out at Sugar House Park, then moved to the building that you're in now, and now you're moving to a new building, which shows there's a need for a program like that.
Yeah.
So how would somebody, if you go online, ftr.org?
Yeah, but it's fit and the number 2 recover.org.
Fit to the number recover.org.
.org.
Okay.
But you can also just Google and fit to recover, and I think it's the only thing that pops.
And Facebook, Instagram. Yeah. And then Instagram also, like there's a separate for nutrition. It's called Food to Recover, and then creative arts and a women's group. So there's a lot of different options.
Oh, and as in one of our podcasts, I think that's coming out in the future, there's a pride group as well.
There's an LGBTQ group, and we have a grief group as well. And then in January, our men's group will be starting up again.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, Peter, and the point of us bringing is talking about FTR or Odyssey House. There is no one way to recover, or be successful or live happily in life, and there's just so many community partners who work together to try to achieve, recovery and a good life balance and everything. I mean, for instance, at Odyssey's residential program, we take our people to Fit to Recover because we think it's important. And there's so many other nonprofits out there that are doing things like that. We were talking about Soap to Hope, which is a group that's sort of street level service to people who are out on the street, with harm reduction.
Those things that we don't think that are out there, but that really are though. So it's standing for that. And so I think it's great. So like when I met Tony, I was like, I'm not creative, but actually like she pointed out that I am. And so I'm trying to listen more. But it's like that outlet, though. There are a lot of creative people or nutrition or just so many. We've done so much damage to our bodies. Or how do you eat on a budget when you're on food stamps? Like different things. So it's
still buy booze and heroin. I mean, it's really difficult to do that. You gotta have a budget.
We talk about this too. Just being open to trying different things. Yeah. Because even if somebody's coming in and saying, I'm not, all these I'm nots that people put themselves in, but the opportunity to try something, and how that might surprise. Like the next time you hit a wall where you think you can't do something, you've just had this little experience where you like stepped through that. Yeah. So sometimes the creative arts too are just like the safe way to challenge those
and also empower people
thoughts.
To like build and grow off of it, because you have people that are that show up and want to be a part of that, and so it's also giving a platform for people to grow.
We talk often about it's not the product, it's not the end product of the art or the music, but it's the process.
It's the fact that you did it.
Through. What was that like for you? We'll talk about that.
Another aspect of recovery. So thank you for being our guest. That was a quick half hour, wasn't it? See.
Painless.
It's because you're so charming, Doctor.
It's true. It's very true.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good to see you again, Rachel.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching or listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.